This is Mrs. Groves, and I am back to finish up our section on 9.5. Now that you know how to factor, this is one way that we're going to learn how to solve quadratic equations. And remember, the standard form of a quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Right? So the first thing we have to do is we have to put we got to get this into that form. And so we got to get the 18 on the other side. You can either do it mentally, subtracting 18 from both sides, or you can show the work. Okay, I want this video to be able to be used by all levels of my algebra classes, so I'm going to show all the work. My honors level classes probably can skip some of these steps. All right. The most important thing to remember is clearly show your work, go down. So we have x squared plus 7x minus 18 equals 0. And now what we're going to do is, you learned last class that we're going to factor this. And so we're going to set up our two parentheses. Now we're setting this equal to 0. Here, remember that a equals 1, so that makes factoring very easy because we know this is going to be x times x. Okay, the factors of 18 are 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. Now our signs. Since c is negative, our signs have to be opposites. If c was positive, our signs would either have to both be positive or both be negative, depending on what b was. So we know they have to be positive and negative. Okay, this is 7. So when we multiply these, we're looking for the set of factors that has a difference of 7. Well, 9 and 2, the difference is 7. Now, since this is positive, we're going to want to put positive 9 there, negative 2 there. All right? And then just make sure you have it right. Just always mentally multiply. X times x, x squared, negative 2x, 9x is 7x. That matches. 9 times negative 2 is negative 18. Right? So the next step is that we know that if we set each of these factors equal to 0, we can solve them. So we have this one, x plus 9 equals 0. X minus 2 equals 0. You could mentally do it, or you can show the step. Subtract 9, x equals negative 9, because negative 9 and 9 is 0. Okay, here I want to solve for x, plus 2, plus 2. X equals 2. We know that 2 minus 2 is 0. So we could have just basically gone from here to there mentally, or we could show this work. Right. Now, check. Okay. We need to check in the original equations. All right, so we want to check this negative 9. And you want good notes. You always want to write down all the steps in your notes. When you get used to this, you can kind of skip steps. So we're going to put negative 9 squared plus 7 times negative 9 equals 18. And so this is going to give me 81 minus 63 equals 18. 81 minus 63, 18 equals 18. Cha-ching, it checks. Then we want to check the 2. 2 squared, okay, plus 7 times 2 equals 18. Notice whenever you have negative numbers and you're substituting, you always want to use parentheses to make sure you do it correctly, especially if you're going to put it in your calculator. So we're going to get 2 squared, 4 plus 14 equals 18. 18 equals 18. And congratulations, you've solved your first quadratic equation using the factoring method. Now these notes are posted on my website, but I just noticed that I did not complete number 4. So I'm going to do number 4, and actually I'm going to do 4, 5, and 6 with you. And then I want you to pause the video and do 2 and 3 yourselves. So we're going to go through these steps, and we're going to add 36 to both sides because this has to be 0. Okay, we have x squared plus 12x plus 36 equals 0. My factors of 36, okay, so before I do that, I like to set up my parentheses. I know that it's going to be x times x. I have all positive, so it has to be positive times positive. All right, and so then I have to figure out what 2 factors of 36 add to 12, and you probably already know that. But in case you don't, you could just, over here, write down the factors. 1 and 36, 2 and 18. That wouldn't work because we're trying to get 12. 2 and 18. 3 and 12. Nope. 4 and 9. Nope. 6 and 6. Bingo. All right? Because 6 times 6 is 36, and 6 plus 6 is 12. Okay? So you have x plus x and x plus x. And you could actually write that x plus 6 squared equals 0. Okay, we're going to talk about that later in the chapter, but that's called a binomial square. Okay, got a binomial, you square it. Now, in this case, you don't have to set each of these factors equal to 0. You're only going to get one solution. So you're going to have x plus 6 equals 0. Do it mentally, or x is equal to negative 6. And you check it in the original equation. Negative 6 squared plus 12 times negative 6 equals negative 36. Okay. And you could put this into your calculator. Okay, negative 6 squared is 36 minus 72. So I'm going to get negative 36 equals negative 36. Cha-ching, it checks. All right. So problems 2 and 3 above, these 2 problems, you're going to do them exactly like we did number 4. Number 5 is slightly different, and I want to show you this. Okay, so here we're going to subtract 10 from both sides, because that's going to give us 0, and that's going to give us 0. So we have x squared plus 3x equals 0. So we can't factor this like we've been doing before because we don't have a trinomial. All right? think GCF. Is there a common factor? Okay, whenever you're factoring, you want to pull out the common factor. So we do. We have x is common in both of these terms. So x plus 3 equals 0. For my honor students, you probably can already go to the answer. But you can also show the work. And in your notes, I think it would be a good idea to show your notes, even if you're in the honors level. So this is going to be x equals 0. That's one of my answers. I'm done. Okay? If I check it, that's 0. That's 0. I'm left with 10 equals 10. It checks. Okay, here I have x minus 3 equals 0. I add 3 to both sides, and I get x is equal to 3. Okay, I check it, and in your notes you should show your checks, so make sure to remind you how to do the checks. On your homework, it's fine with me if you do these as calculator checks, but always check your work. You want to make sure that you know if you have the right answer, especially when you're doing the book problems that have for the evens. You want to check your work to see which ones you made a mistake with. Okay, so here I'm going to have 3 squared plus 3 times 3 plus 10 equals 10. Right? And I noticed, oops, I think you probably caught this. I made a mistake. And I found my mistake because it doesn't check. Right? When I wrote this here, this should be a positive 3. So I should have subtracted 3 from both sides. And my answer is negative 3. Okay? I make mistakes too. So this is a way that I figured out that I had done something wrong. So this is really negative 3 squared. This is negative 3. So I'm going to get negative 3 squared, 9 minus 9 plus 10 equals 10. 10 equals 10. Cha-ching, it checks. So even for us experienced people, we still have to check because we can make mistakes. And the last factoring problem. It's a challenge problem, but I don't really think it's a challenge problem. So let's see what we're going to do here. We know that we have to subtract 20 from both sides. So we have x squared minus 100 equals 0. All right. Now, we're missing the b term. So for your notes, let's try putting that in. X squared plus 0b minus 100 equals 0. Right? So when you're doing these and you get used to doing these, this is called the difference of two squares. Same first term, same last term, negative in the middle. Right? So now my factors of 100, okay, are 1 and 100, 2 and 50, 4 and 25, 5 and 20, 10 and 10. So I need to find the correct pair that I multiply that's going to give me negative 100 and adds to 0. So think. I'm going to let you think about that. Right. So when we're factoring this, we are going to have x and x because of the x squared. C is negative, so my signs have to be positive and negative, and we set it equal to 0. So, have you figured out what the numbers are? Well, what happens if you use 10 and 10? Okay, if we want to add these to get b, which is 0, and we want to multiply these, that's going to be b, okay, and c is negative 100. So if I take negative 10 plus 10, that gives me 0. That makes me happy. And I take negative 10 times 10, that gives me negative 100. I'm happy. This works. Okay. So my numbers are x plus 10, x minus 10. And you're going to learn that whenever you factor, okay, x squared, this is a perfect square, negative in the middle. You'll notice that the first terms are going to be the square root of this, which is x and x. The last term is going to be the same number, and you're going to have different signs. That's just the pattern. So now I can finish this up. X plus 10 equals 0. X minus 10 equals 0. Subtract 10. I get x is equal to negative 10. Add 10. I get x equals 10. Okay. I check in the original equation. All right. Negative 10 squared is 100. Minus 80 is 20, which is great because 20 equals 20. Cha-ching, it checks. Now I take the second one in the original equation. 10 squared minus 80. So 100 minus 80 is 20. 20 equals 20. Cha-ching, it checks. So now I would like you to pause this video and here are the answers to the first two problems. You work them out and then check them. And if you have any questions on this, you can email me and I will answer them for you. I hope you've enjoyed this video and have a good day.